another SuperCoach video with me, JD. You're joining me for the round 11 review. We're about to head into the buys. We've got a whole bunch of new DPP changes and teams literally just opened 30 seconds ago. I've done no prep for this one. We're just going straight in. So we'll go through the team, some initial thoughts. I'll vent from some frustrations as I always do, and we'll go from there. But yeah, I mean, 404, team not found. This is like a really weird week for me. So I traded in, we'll go into them in a second, but I traded in two 140s and I got the best captain and I went down spots from a poor rank. Like, that is insane to me that happened this week. I actually can't remember that ever happening before. And so we'll go through why. I mean, I had a couple of players that didn't score particularly well. Assuming SuperCoach loads, it like literally just open, so everyone's probably jumping on. Got the blue dots there. That's handy. Yeah. So, and like I missed. Well, I don't have Stewart and Sicily, who are the two top scorers in defense. But yeah. So I traded in Darcy 141, huge. I know a lot of people held Bruce and fielded Hayes, so it's like 80 points up there. Well, they traded in Witt, so I got a small leg up there. And then my other trade-in was Sinclair for Whitfield, who dropped a 140, went absolutely massive. But yeah, I mean, I had Zorko on field who put in a 37, which was like 140 points behind Stewart and about 120 behind Sicily. So I guess like that's a really big loss. I lost Baslenka to a cough this week, right? Of the flu. So I had to field Stevens. This is a little bit annoying as well because with the way my loopholes worked out to get the Neil 164, I had to take Stevens 46 and hope that Clark wouldn't outscore him by that much, and he did. So that's a little bit annoying, but yeah. So I guess like Stevens 46 against like a decent mid that went, I don't know, like 110 or something. That's another 60 points. So maybe like 120 plus 60. That's 180. And then what else went wrong? Oh, Petrarca, who also had a cough, but he didn't play. And so like this is like as annoying as it is that Bailey Smith missed the week after I traded him in, it's better that he missed than he'll play and drop a 53, which is what Petrarca did. If he didn't play, I would have taken Clark 72 and like scored more points. So yeah, some people wouldn't have had Petrarca, and so maybe I'll listen to the 60 points there, and that's 250 points, and I guess that's like the difference between like 2400 and being like slightly behind par, and like 2650 and being okay. Yeah, it's just like so weird, like trading in two 140s, captaining a 164, and not going up in ranks. Just like it's so strange. And like even Degoe did well this week. This is like his 6th week in my team, I think, and it's the first time he's gone over 100. So yeah, pretty wild. All right, so just like quickly running through the team then. Hewitt continues to do amazing things. He's phenomenal. Yeah, love owning Hewitt. But he is going to be a buy player this week, so we'll move him off to the side. Oh, actually, might leave him there. Might decide to do it to someone else, like oh wait, Dawson's gonna knock him out. So sorry, I'm gonna do some really weird things, and this is like just my tendencies with my team. But when you have buys, right? Like, so I like obviously move your buy players to the bench, but anyone that's injured or not playing that doesn't have the blue dot, like a Rory Thompson here, I like having them on the bench because otherwise, like I might miscount and think I've got more players than I do. And then for all the remaining blue dots I still have on field, I like having them grouped. So I try and like end up having them together next to each other on the field as well. And so if I can do that, I'll like try and do that. So this works. So like Hewitt and Short on top of each other. And so like, I know these two don't count. These two don't count. I've got 4 on defense. So anyway, weird stuff I do. But yeah, Hewitt's been great. Dawson, like I think he's had a pretty good 3 weeks, right? 3-round average of 114, 5-round average of 114. I know some people might have like chased trading him in after 130 this week and be a little bit disappointed, but I mean Dawson's been really consistent, so happy with that. Crisp, like this score is okay given that Carlton is a pretty tough midfield to come up against. They got smashed with a lot of the contested ball and clearances early. Just hard to score against, and given Crisp isn't the most contested himself, like I think you're pretty happy with a 97 still. Short, yeah, it's a bit worrying. So at this, like at CBAs, he was starting half forward or like in the forward 50 and then pushing up to the ball. And it's just not that good of a role for Supercoach. You'd rather see him start behind the ball and do the same thing or whatever it may be. So this is a little bit worrying. I mean, he's obviously been a pretty good pick so far, 107 average. We got him like fairly cheap, but I have a feeling that he's probably going to continue to come down from that point for the rest of the year. Not that I'd advocate trading him out or anything like that. He's going to be perfectly fine D6. But yeah, just a little bit frustrating that this could have been a better pick than what it is. He's highly owned anyway, so it's not really a huge deal, but yeah. Zorko was just bad. And like that was unexplained as to why he was this bad, really. Especially given that, Brisbane came back. They had no McCluggage. I thought there'd be more like time in the midfield for him this week. He dropped 41k, which is crazy. And he's got a break even of 171 against Freo, who are pretty hard to score on, like realistically, and they've just come off a win against Melbourne. So this pick is now really concerning. I would love to like trade him straight back out right about now, but I don't know if I can. I think I might just have to wear this. And he's going to end up being like a really good cheap downgrade option for like a D7 for others, I guess, if you wanted to. Yeah, this is annoying. This is annoying. Okay. Yeah, I don't know what to think here. I don't know if it was just a bad game. Like, because he's still getting some mid-time. It's just, yeah, weird. And then DeConning's been really good. I mean, he's, what is it, 224k he's now made for the year. And he should have another price rise this week. His break-even is just the 46. So he's going to get over 350k, which has been really good. And he's provided some nice on-field scores for people as well. So DeConning has sneaky been really one of the better rookie options this year, especially given that rookies in defense were so scarce. So being able to get like DeConning and McCartan has just been so huge. But yeah, he was. I think it was the first week that I've seen where his dream team or like fantasy scoring was ahead of his Supercoach scoring. So he had a negative ratio between the two. Normally he's like very big positive ratio player, which was interesting. But I guess there was a lot of like kick to kick down back in that game. Obviously, like supported by Stewart's massive score, who I don't have. What's he up to? He's got 26k, 620, 69 break even. He's pretty gone. You can't trade him in against the Dogs given his buys the week after, so that hurts. And then yeah, Sicily, what's he up to now? He's killing me. Those two are just really bad this week. I honestly like the 147 was a little surprising. He was good, but I didn't think he was 147 good. But they have to give points somewhere, and if there's not really in places for it to go, then players that at least done something get them. Oh geez, 3-round average of 137, 5-round average of 132. That is, there's very few times I can remember a defender ever doing that, especially one that people start at 400k that I don't have. So he went up another 20k. He's made 190k for the year. His break even's 106. It's actually like not crazy. Price at 635. I mean, you can't trade those players in. They're too gone. They still need to find some value, I think. Maybe for teams in a better situation than mine you could, but yeah, I can't do that. And Sinclair we touched on was really good. I was originally going to target him after the buy as a downgrade option in defense. As an upgrade option in defense, but with Whitfield out, yeah, had to pull the trigger on that this week, and pretty thankful for that. Midfield, all right. Well, Bailey Smith should be back, which is good news. I've got too many mids, right? Oh, we got the Dpps. We'll talk about Dpps later. So I can. It's really handy because like Macomb for those that have him, or like Hobbs, I think got it as well. You can move around some of your players to make sure your things work. Your things work. That's really insightful. All right, so mids. Cripps was pretty good in this game, to be honest. Like he's just dropped off a little bit from the form we saw at the start of the year. So he's still going to be around about a top 8 mid, but he's not going to be like a top 2, 3, 4 mid that we saw at the start of the year. Maybe the break and a week off will help him and help get him back to some good form. But I think they've got a lot of talent there. Walsh is coming back to his best as well. So maybe some of the ceiling on Cripps has gone back a little bit, especially if he's not kicking 2-3 goals a game. So nothing to be concerned about there. And obviously we didn't have a ton of like good early buy mids anyway. So one that you'll happily hold. Neil was immense. Yeah, this was a really good vice captaincy by me. And I think a lot of others did get on it too. I just had the feeling that he wouldn't get tagged, and that came true. And then, given that he wasn't tagged, he had that bounce back. He was on track to score, maybe not this big, but big last week before he got tagged. So I think any game where he isn't going to get tagged, he's someone that you should consider. I think the difficulty with Neil is that, so say he plays Freo this week, right? And they could do something like put Sarong to him to tag or like do a job, but they've done stuff like that before. And so it's really hard to ever captain Neil, but I like him as a vice captain option just because of his massive ceiling. Oliver was the one that I'd originally considered, and he looked like he was going to beat that, especially at half time, but pulled back. Just didn't live up to that in the second half. So pretty thankful because, I mean, like any more points from Oliver means that the gap that I would have got from Neil wouldn't have been nearly as good. McRae is like a little bit of a worry. He's 3-round average 108, 5-round 111. It's not terrible by any means. He's got a 149 break even. He's going to lose cash. It's just a bit of a shame because he's so Mora's Magic, who won like fantasy back-to-back years. We've talked about some of the stuff that he does, and like products that he has on offer. But he's obviously a gun. He posted McRae's split, so like first half and second half in fantasy over the last like 3 or 4 years, and I think this is his second worst split. So he would have had like 8 or 10 splits over the time. This is like the second worst, but he's always seemed to had halves of the year where he does worse and then halves that he does better, which I think the implication is like, don't trade him. He should come good and have a better second half of the year. I just don't know if I subscribe to that. So like the difference, with this year being that they've already had the easy part of their fixture, which, McRae doesn't really... He obviously can score well versus like good opposition and has games where he will, but he also like does tend to rack it up against poorer teams as well. So the big change this year is that you've got Bailey Smith more up on the ball. You've got Treloar getting in there, Dunkley getting in there. They're just rotating all of them through a lot more. And I think that does take away from McRae a little bit. He's still going to be top 8 mid and all that. But yeah, just like not as good as what we thought he was going to be, McRae's. And I think the most frustrating part about this is he's not like a reliable captain option either, which is what he has been in the past. So yeah, it's captain, vice captain has actually been much more interesting this year because we don't have Gorn and Grundy to do every week. And then even the mids that are like high scoring averages, so like Oliver, Neil, McRae, for example, none of them have been ultra consistent as like your every week captaincy option. I know George was lamenting that he'd had, I think like the C or VC on Neil like every week for the last like 4 or 5 weeks, and he had managed to like get one good score out of him. And then the first week he takes it off, like he goes 164. And that's exactly what I mean. It's not like Neil's dropped bad games, but he just hasn't been ultra reliable as that captain option. Miller, I mean, this is a good, like a better score than last week. But yeah, he's obviously like still underperformed for what we picked him at, but like it's fine. He's still gonna be top 8, like happy enough. His buy is annoying, but that's about it. He should actually be a good option for like captain or vice captain this week against North. Yeah, one to consider. And then, Petrarca, already spoke about him, but like if you have the flu that badly or you're sick that badly, just don't play, right? Like it's better for everyone in the end, because for those that don't have him, like you can get him really cheap now after his buy if you wanted to as a last mid upgrade. And that's like annoying for me. I'd rather not have that be an option to everyone else. So yeah, as annoying as Bailey Smith missed, like he at least didn't do that to me. Now he is a forward option now. I kind of want to put him in the forward line just so it looks good. Let's do Hamilton then. All right. And then so of the rookies, let's chat about them quickly. So Oh, actually, I didn't see a ton of the West Coast Dogs game. I was out like all that evening, so I didn't actually see a ton of this game. But I mean, Clark scored well, 72. He's break even 3. He's got Adelaide this week. He should continue to score well. Um, what's his projected price rise? Another 30K. So I can't really see Greg Clark being one that we trade out during the buys. I think you probably just hold him for M9. Cooper Stevens was the rookie I traded in, and like funnily enough, this probably wasn't the best one in the end. So had really low time on ground and just scored the 46. If for people that went to Ligo and paid up a little bit, who like I could have, I didn't. I valued the money a bit more, but he scored like a 50, which wasn't much better, but he has that higher score and probably a bit better job security. Minus 18 break even against West Coast. And then you had like craziness. So like Joel Jeffrey, like small forward, for Gold Coast, he scored a what was it, 93. So he's gone back to back 90s, which is insane. Already went up 61K. He's got a negative 77 break even, plays North this week. He's going to make so much money. That's a bit of a bad miss, but like hard to predict. I think even come on, don't do this. Even Rosa scored well, right? For people that were holding him, just like didn't expect Gold Coast to have such a nice patch of form. 64, yeah, that's like perfectly fine. So yeah, Cooper Stevens a little bit annoying. Like realistically, I just need him to play this week. So as long as he doesn't get dropped this week, which should like hopefully he doesn't because Dangerfield's still out, right? But as long as he plays this week, that's fine. He can get dropped after that and just be a loophole. I don't mind. Apparently Hamilton didn't have the best game in the 2, so I'm dubious as to whether we get him back at all. I think that's probably just a dead rookie, which is very unfortunate. Chris, we talked about Butters was pretty good, although it was against Essendon, which is a bit of an easy kill, and it was in the wet. So I think he played much better in the first half than the second half when it was drier, and in the second half he disappeared a little bit, but still made his way to 100. So can't complain. I think it's been a good hold for all that have held him. What's his 3-round average of 109? So yeah, people were looking at trading him out, I think, after that Bulldogs game of the 52, and he's gone 104, 118, 104 since. So can't complain. I guess the one thing to point out is that like North and Essendon are pretty easy opponents, and Geelong has been giving up scores. So it's not like he's played amazing competition. Although he has broken the Adelaide Oval voodoo. So like from round 3, it was a 58, 57, 58, 52, and there's like another ton. So I guess that's nice. Apologies. Let's take the ASMR drink break right now. All right. So Carroll was the sub, which was annoying for a lot of people because they were planning on using him as their loophole. So got hurt pretty badly by that. So apologies if you're one of those people. For me, I mean, this is like annoying. He lost money because he scored a 15. I think he was tracking for a slightly better score than this, but he had like clangers and whatnot. And the worst part about this is like he's going to get dropped. So he's a dead rookie and there's no money in him. So already got Hamilton and Carroll as dead rookies on the bench, and Stevens is probably going to join them. And none of them have money. Ooh, bad. That's bad. Rux, yeah, Witts was good. I think, like a lot of people traded him in this week. The disappointing thing was that Hawthorn was like a pretty easy kill and a game that he could have gone 150, but he just didn't live up. Like, it's funny to be disappointed with a 119, but yeah, pretty disappointing, really. And then North do have one of the better ruck tandems in Cherry and Goldie. So even though he should be able to beat Cherry pretty easily in the hit outs, and like Ruck still can go big against them, it's definitely not guaranteed or anything like that. So yeah, still don't mind this matchup though. Like, it's someone that you could want, like, once again, you could explore him as a vice captain option. I don't know if I'd do that over like Took Miller. And then Darcy was really good. Yeah, really pleased with this because I thought I might have to take a little bit of a bath on him this week, just playing Gawn Jackson. Like, once again, one of the better ruck tandems. There's only a few ruck matchups you don't want your rucks to come up against, and that's one of them. So to go 141 into that is phenomenal. His break even's now down to 68. So if you were looking at getting on Sean Darcy and you have, I don't know, like a Hayes or someone at R2 at the moment, this would be the week to do it. 580k, you're going to get him in his cheapest. Still has a pretty poor matchup this week with McInerney for the Lions. That is probably one of the harder rucks to come up against. He restricted someone this week as well, didn't he? Was it Flynn that he beat? Yes, that's who they played, right? But we'll talk about Bruce in a second as well. So I think Darcy you can get on this week, and actually we'll talk about Bruce right now because I think if you have Bruce and you're going to try and hold him another week, I would reconsider that. Apparently his VFL numbers were bad and he got beaten in the ruck by like a average VFL ruck. I haven't looked into it deeply myself, but I'm feeling pretty happy about moving Bruce on. Yes, he has more money to be made if he returns. And yes, Flynn didn't do the best job. But if Bruce is struggling in the twos, unless they're just going to write that off as like him just getting back from illness and that's why he was playing in the twos rather than the ones, then yeah, I don't know if he's guaranteed to come back after his bye, which would be pretty scary for holders. But maybe just wait and see and take that risk. And if he doesn't come back, then trade him. But yeah. And then Hayes, this game didn't suit him. There was obviously a lot of rumors that Hayes wasn't going to play because it'd been wet and raining. Now, I'm not sure if that was just like smoke and mirrors or if it was something they were considering. And if there was rain at the start of the game, they would have had him as a laid out. They probably would have benefited from not having him there because when the rain came down in the second half, Essendon did get on top a little bit because Port's tools were nullified for the most part. And so someone like Hayes just didn't provide as much benefit as, basically if you had another runner. With that said, like his tap work and all that wasn't there, but he's like wasn't bad, but he's around the groundwork just wasn't there as much as you'd normally see. But like 61's fine. He only made 3.8k. Really? Wow. His break-even's 49. Oh, that's right. He had a poor score of 55 that's rolled off. So he's getting close to capped out in price unless he has another big score and resets it. Against Richmond this week, Nake's been really good. That's probably pretty unlikely to happen. And even Laddams has been, and then Witts. Wow, okay. He has not got great matchups during the buys, which is what we were holding him for. Okay. And the other thing is, like, because I've gone Darcy, and Darcy obviously does have the injury concerns. Like, for those with Gawn and Witts, it's probably a little bit safer. But for myself, that's gone with the Darcy upside. Hayes is a little bit of, like, insurance policy just because Lycett's not back for weeks and weeks still. I think it's not until, like, when is it? It's eventually, like, round 20. It's a while off, I still think. So I kind of want to keep Hayes just for that Darcy cover, but at the same time, I'm going to need his money. So this is I'm stuck between a rock and a hard place at the moment. And then forward line, Dunkley was huge. It's funny. It's someone that we don't sing the praises of enough. Averaging 117 for the year. He's 34k above his starting price. But it's just because everyone's got him. It was such an obvious pick that basically everyone started him or has him now. I mean, he's in 64% of teams, 107,000 coaches have him. So being a phenomenal forward, he'd actually be like a top 8 mid if that was the only line you could get him in. So he's been that good. But yeah, one we don't talk enough about just because we take him for granted a bit. We do. And then Parker, great game again. So he's been a really nice trade-in for me the last few weeks. Obviously, when I traded him in, I think he had this 89 against Gold Coast. So I wanted to trade him in before this game. I couldn't. I missed out on the 150. Then the 89 was when he was like on 80 at halftime, had the ankle problem, finished on 89. And then 105, 112, 116 since then. So all really nice scores. And, the Richmond score was in like a close contested game. Carlton game was a good one as well. So like he's scoring against reasonable opposition. Melbourne is going to be a test this week, but yeah, been happy with Parker. Think he's a top 6 forward from here. He's probably the only non-dog that's a top 6 forward, I would say. Ooh, my throat's really getting to me. And sorry for those going like, why are you leaving in like seconds of you drinking? It doesn't help YouTube add money as far as I'm aware. I just don't like editing. So I tend to just take all of this stuff, and then just upload whatever's left. So you just get the raw thoughts. Yeah, no editing, none of that stuff. So yeah, sorry, that means drinking stays in occasionally. All right, Cogs. So Cogs' game was a weird one. He was on track for a much bigger score and then just kind of faded out after the first quarter. But so did GWS as a whole. The interesting thing here is like his Dream Team score, I think, was like 108. And people are like, well, why are you referencing Dream Team? Like he scored at 85. It doesn't matter what his Dream Team was. Like most players tend to have a 1-to-1 ratio. So if you have like a 110 in Dream Team, but at 85 in SuperCoach, then like you can say like, oh, he kind of was getting enough of the ball, he just didn't use it that well, or he got it in junk time. You can like extrapolate these types of things, which helps give you another point of like, was this a sign that he's not going to be a keeper or being worse, or is it just like a one-off bad game? And I tend to lean more towards the second, especially when you look, well, when the CBA numbers come out, I think he got enough mid-time, or at least the role, at least to the eye test, looked good enough for that to be a potential keeper. So yeah, happy with Cogs for now. Definitely not a priority trade, and just given how the buys are going to work out, I'm going to need him next week anyway. So I can't imagine, I can't see myself moving him on. And the way it's set up at the moment anyway, like it's you know what, I'm going to do it like this. Yeah, like I don't really need to trade one of these guys out. To go, yeah. So the first 100 in the team, he's now what, 426k. Oh, he went up 11k this week. Oh, break even's been reset. You can jump on him. Probably wouldn't jump on him. So I traded him in after this 125 here. This 125, because he's getting 80% mid-time. You know, he'd had pretty good games, but like that was against Brisbane as well. It was good, tough opposition. Had some easy games coming up, and then went 76, 60, 74, 77, 82, and then 112. So, funnily enough, he's rated like top 10 players by player ratings, but definitely hasn't translated into Supercoach scoring. And to me, he hasn't looked like a top 10 player in the league either. So I don't know what their ratings come from, but that's a weird one. Anyway, happy that he's finally changed that a little bit. And to be honest, the fact that it says he's averaging 89 is astounding to me. There's like no way that's true. They must have the rounding wrong for exactly this one player. McCartan, same boat as De Koning. Like him and De Koning have been the godsends of defense this year. Up to 100k, another 14k this week. Break even of 50 against Melbourne. Melbourne is a tough matchup. I think the only position that scores well, has like decent matchups against them though, is defenders, just because the ball's in your defense so much when you play Melbourne, that defenders tend to do quite well against them. So even though this looks like a bad matchup on paper, it may not be purely because if Melbourne get back on top and rebound after a loss against Freo, then you could see McCartan potentially getting a lot of nice intercept marks down there. So I would expect we see a 70 to 80 out of him, something like that's what I'd project. Supercoach Gold's got it projected at 75. There you go. And so he's going to go up, I think, yeah, probably to about another 10k, maybe another, about that. So like 365 next week, and we can trade him out. I think it was Tim from Herald Sun asked on Twitter, like, what you're doing with De Koning and McCartan. Are you trading both, or like holding one or both? I think was effectively the question. And what I answered to that was like, ideally you'd have probably both of these for your cover as your D7 and F7 for the year. But the reality is we're going to need their money. So they've been really good. They'll play this last week, and then I think you move them out before that middle bye, which is going to be the painful one. All right, so let's talk about is there any other players I need to talk about? Oh, like Heaney maybe, who wasn't good. Again, this is like a weird one because a tough matchup with Melbourne too. But he's a type of like could pop off. So obviously the talent is there, but the role just hasn't been as good as what we would have liked. He's getting some mid-time, but not enough. And even when he's been in there, he hasn't really capitalized on it. I think what's made this worse is that when he has had opportunities up front, he's been very inaccurate the last month or so. And that's hurt his scoring. I mean, if he's kicking an extra goal a game, that's probably somewhere between like 15 and 25 points a week he'd be getting, which would still have him being a really good forward option. I mean, this 53 score was like a touch BS because, like, for those who didn't watch the game, he got a free kick from a Baker push at about 60 out on the boundary at an angle. And then going back in into the 50, Grimes, I think it was, pushed over Buddy. And so they paid downfield. And I think the umpiring rules go that you either give the downfield free or 50 meters, whichever the bigger penalty is. And I think like the 50 to Heaney must have been a slightly bigger benefit to Sydney than giving it to Buddy. So Heaney got like a shot from directly in front of goal, which he converted, which he'd been struggling to do all game. And he went from like, I don't know, sub 30 to 53 in the end, which was pretty, like, the scaling Heaney gets from goals in crunch time is nuts to me. He seems to get it much more than anyone else. Anyway, yeah, like, whatever. It's a 53. I'm glad he scored poorly as a non-owner. But yeah, so it's really tricky. Like, do you hold or do you trade? And the thing is, right, he has got the bad buy in the middle as well. And there's not really anyone in the first buy that you can trade him to, nor is anyone in the last buy you can trade him to. So I think the option here is like, if you can trade him out to someone else in another line that works for you this week, I wouldn't hate it. Like, you could always wait this week, see what happens against Melbourne, and then trade him out to like a first buy mid, so like a Merritt or someone like that. I don't know. You'd have to be pretty flush on trades to do that and have some of the Dogs players as well. I think the other thing is like Heaney does get banged up a bit, and I don't know, maybe he's just a little bit sore. So he's another player maybe like Cripps that could benefit from the week off and just freshen up a bit. Hard to say. And then Durden was pretty poor for this game. A little bit like Heaney. Like, this score shouldn't have been this high, but I think he had he had the one goal early, and then he had a couple of touches late in crunch time that's got scaled up pretty nicely. But yeah, this wasn't good game from him. His break even's 47. I think like he's perfectly fine to trade this week if your buys are looking good, but I'm gonna need him for next week, I think. So unlikely to trade him. All right, so let's see. Like, counting up on my buys, I've got 4, 8, so that makes 12, 16, 21. Wait, that can't be right. That sounds like too many. Oh, that's right. I added too much there. So 4, 8, that's 14, 19. I think ideally you'd have 20, but with Thompson being injured, like, there's not much I can do about that. So, yeah, 19. I think the risk to this is Cooper Stevens gets dropped. And it goes to 18. Would I trade around that if that happens? Probably not. And I think I'm probably not trading this week either at all. There's some things I'd obviously like to fix. Like, I'd like to fix up Zorko. But with 50k, I can't trade him to anyone that I'd want, I don't think. And I could just wait until next week and trade him to like Doherty. But he loses more money, but I think the points on field just matter more. So yeah, I wouldn't do that. And then the big talking point this week is English. So English came back and absolutely crushed it, which is good and bad for me. So I held him for like 5 weeks in AFL Fantasy. I traded him in, I think, the week before he got injured. And he came back and like scored a 130 in that format, which is really good. Moved up a ton of ranks this week. Glad I've got him. In this format, I was going to trade him in. Like, my trade plans that week was to bring in English. And it fell through because he was laid out. And it's just sad because, like, if he wasn't and he didn't get injured and played through, like, my fantasy, I'd be, like, top 100. And in SuperCoach, he would have actually helped me a ton as well. I would have gone at 575 and like held him for ages. And now it's like, I would love to bring him in this week because with a 55 break even and Blitzer or Stanley is the ruck matchup, like he should dominate again next week and go big again. What are they got him projected? So got him projected at 127 and going up to 630k next week, which like isn't unreasonable to be perfectly honest. But if I look at next week's bye, so I've got 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I won't include Carroll because he's not going to play. 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. I'm not including Hamilton either. So if I traded in Tim English this week, I'm going down to 15 for next week. And that means I need to do 3 trades just to get back to 18, which is a really bad position to be in. So English is probably close to a must-have. And I'd more so than Bont, I think. The other nice thing about English is like if I do move on Hayes, I can get just then like a forward ruck loophole donut at the end of buys or whatever. And use English as cover for Darcy, which is like a pretty good position to be in, just given if Darcy does miss a game, you don't want to have to sideways a premium and all that stuff. So I want English. I probably can't bring him in this week. I'm just going to have to wait and pay an extra 20, 30k if I can afford it. It's going to be hard. Sucks, man. Just a bunch of things haven't gone my way this year, and that is one of those. Okay, other trades for next week. So I think the two Jacob Ware is one that I'll bring in. Some people went early on him, and it looks like that's an okay call. He scored a 6 again. I think he gets another game. Negative 38, break even now. Plays North after the bye, so that's pretty nice. So he's a defensive downgrade option that will look. So someone like getting a DeConning out for Ware would be the play. I think the only issue for me is it means I've got Thompson and Ware as my D7 and 8, which isn't a great spot to be in because I don't think Ware's long-term job security is great. And Thompson, depending on like the knee surgery and how that goes, he may not play this year again. So it's a little bit of a risky position to be in, and neither of them have. Oh, actually, it doesn't matter. Okay, so this is nice. We'll go into the. I promise to talk about Dpps in a second. I will because I've already mentioned a bunch that have it, but I just realized that all of my defenders have defender mid status. So if any of them missed a week, as long as I have a rookie cover or like a D7 in my midfields, whatever, I can still cover them. So having 2 non-playing rookies here may not be the end of the world. Not ideal, don't get me wrong, but may not be the end of the world. And then the other one that's worth mentioning is Machida Owens. Machida Owens. So I started him this year. He scored a 2 in round 1 and got dropped. He scored an 89, kicking 2 goals this week. So I think there's a pretty good chance that he gets a game against Brisbane in round 13, which is, we need those rookies. If you were to go early on one of Ware or Owens, I think Owens is the one to do it on. Apologies once again. I don't know what's gotten into me. So if you had to make a side swap this week and you wanted to go early on one of them, I think Owens would be the option. But yeah, next week's trade out plans will be something like DeConning, McCartan, and maybe even McComb. I'll trade out those 3. As I showed you before, I have 16 playing next week is what I currently think it's going to look like. So if I trade out those 3 for Ware, Owens, and then an upgrade to my midfield, so I'm thinking about Merritt. That should mean that I have 19 play next week, and then the last buy is fine. So I'm not worried about that. Okay, so DPPs. I'll quickly go through some of the relevant ones. There was about 35 changes made, but relevant ones. So Darcy Cameron, for those that have him, he's been a really good pickup. He's averaged, I think, over 100 the last 5 weeks since Brody's been out. There was obviously some concerns with Cox coming back that his scoring would fade off. And look, it was a little bit lower. I think it was, what was it? Let's just check. Was it sub 100? I think it was like a mid 90 score, 93. There you go. But still been amazing. 5 round average 107, 3 round average 104. So up to 470k. What was he at 5 weeks ago? 330. So he's already made 140k. Good matchup against the Hawks this week. Then a tough matchup against D's, but you're going to be trading him out at that last buy anyway. So he's been really good, and now he has ruck forward status, which would have been much handier last week to be post cover for those that wanted to do that. But yeah, like maybe the DPP on that just won't be that relevant unless you put English at R2 last week and went risky, which shouldn't have worked for you as well as it did. But anyway, other relevant ones. So Ben Hobbs, so similar boat to Robbie McComb, who have now got mid forward status. So this is quite handy, at least I think during the buys anyway, to cover on different lines as you required and open up some of those swings. Blitzavs is interesting. He's now got the ruck status as well. He went 116 again. I can't remember if it was here in chats, whatever it was, but with him as the number one ruck option, he's been amazing in the past. He's had 5 weeks where he's gone over 100, 113.4. If you could promise me he was number one ruck for the rest of the year, he'd actually be like a good defender option, but he's got the bad buy. But for anyone that does have him, yeah, defender ruck status, it's just like one of the rare DPPs as well. So always interesting to call those out. Perryman picked up mid status, I believe. So he was one that has started getting more time through the midfield with the coaching change. He went 138 last week and then 96 this week. I think he was the one that started like shoulder to shoulder on Neil, but didn't necessarily hard tag him. So I don't know, like if you're looking for a pod defender option, maybe Perryman is the look after his buy, but he's really not that cheap. He's 500k, right? Like why wouldn't you just go up to Sinclair or something like that? Flynn Perez, for those that picked him up as a rookie, got mid status. Horn Francis got forward status finally. We wanted that in round 6, not now. It's probably a bit late. There's probably not a ton of people have him. And then Rosie picked up mid status, so he was just a forward. So they're all handy. Short, who's in my team, and many of yours picked up mid status, starting the year with just defender status. And then Heaney, who's also a popular option, obviously picked up mid status, so he's now forward mid. Other interesting ones. Oh, so the big ones are the dogs, which we knew last week. I think we've been talking about this on the podcast for a little while. But Bailey Smith and Bontempelli both got it, which is probably the two biggest changes, just because I think your top 6 forward line is Dunkley, Bailey Smith, Bontempelli, Parker, English, and then you have like, I don't know, I think a D6 option to be like F6 option to have it whoever you want to be. Originally we were going to look at like someone like Taranto after his bye, but he's been pretty bad. So I don't know, like it could be a Trelaw at F6. I mean, I don't think it's going to be Brody. I've been wrong in him all year, so I could continue to be wrong. I think with Fife coming back, patent pending, that does hurt him a little bit. Cogs, maybe. I don't think it's going to be Butters. I don't think it'll be Darcy Cameron either. I mean, eventually Grundy's going to come back anyway. So, yeah, who knows who it'll be. I mean, Brody could be fine as your F6 just because no one else stands out. But last year we had like Stringer and DeGoey both come home on runs of like 110 or 115, and they weren't like top 6 forwards or even close up to that point. We'll probably see something again like that this year. Maybe it's a Taron Thomas again, or Jed Anderson, who's come out of the woodwork. He played his 4th game. He went 144 after having he's been building into it, I guess. If you look at the charts, his break even's 5. He went up 30k. He's 400k. If we needed forward options in the last buy, then that were mid prices, this would be great. But we've got to start loading up on dogs eventually. So, and I can't see him as a good play just to own him for 2 rounds, then flip him again. Gold Coast isn't that good of a matchup. They're actually like defensively been all right the last couple of weeks. Okay, so I realize I've kind of talked a lot off the top, but I think the big things for this week are make sure you've got 19, preferably 20 playing. If you don't, you've got less, then look at whether you need to facilitate a trade this week to make that viable. It could either be fixing up a primo or a mid-pricer, or maybe moving on one of these dead rookies for someone that's playing. but check your other 2 buys before you decide on who you do that to. So, for example, with me, I've got a bad middle buy. I can't be bringing in players from that middle buy this week, just regardless. It doesn't matter if they help me solve this week. It's going to just delay my problem 1 week into the future. So avoid doing that. Trade players who buy. But yeah, otherwise, this is generally a good week not to do much trading. Just because everyone that you're bringing in is going to miss a game in the next 3 weeks. So best to wait until the next 2 weeks and then just do 3 trades. So I guess the only other thing as well to consider is just like figure out what spots you still need upgraded and trading around that. So I have finished my defense. I've got 6 there. I need 2 more midfielders. I need 1 more forward, which is going to be English, hopefully. So I need 3 more premiums across 6 trades, which is possible. I think I'm going to have to look for some value though, because English is going to be 600k or 630k. One that I mentioned that I'm going to look at is Merritt, who had, I think, a pretty good score. It was 130. His break-even's out 75. He still lost 11k though. He's at 520k. This is a very cheap price for Merritt. He's down 105k on the year. So I could look for him as a budget option. The one coming off this buy that I'd love to target is Walsh. He went up another 20k. He's at 630k. Like, it's very hard for me to pay him. He's coming off and playing into Essendon Richmond too, so he could just go huge. Okay, well, I think that's everything for the week. Kind of gone through which which players went well and bad, rookies, some trader options, DPPs, buy planning, and all that good stuff. Oh, vice captain, captain. This is actually a tricky week for me. So the option that I love the most is if you've got Laird, who I'd love to have, but don't, because he plays West Coast this week. That's where I'd be putting my money. I could even look at like doing something cheeky like Dawson in that, because maybe he like just goes crazy. Otherwise, the Dogs played Geelong on Friday, which I don't know. It's not a great matchup, and it's probably hard to pick out of like McRae, Dunkley, Smith. If you had English, I don't mind that actually. Against the Cats, I think they give up pretty good scores to Rucks. Otherwise, Gold Coast have North, so I could see myself maybe looking at like Miller or Witts as options in there. Melbourne play the Swan, so I don't love Petrarca or Oliver as options, or like Mills. If you've got Mills, don't love that as an option either. Hawks, Collingwood don't really have anyone relevant in there. And then Freo, Brisbane. I wouldn't do Brayshaw if you've got Brayshaw. Actually, that's another one of the cheap mid options I could look at, by the way, because he's 536k now. That's so cheap. Brayshaw and Merritt to finish up my midfield with discount options. I could bring in Brayshaw this week, actually. I might look at this. But who am I getting out? I don't have any cashed up rookies apart from Durden. Hayes, who I can't trade because I need him for next week in particular. Actually, I need him the next 2 weeks. Durden, I probably need next week. So trading him out isn't good. Yeah, probably can't get Brayshaw. Sorry, that was an aside. And now I've like totally lost my train of thought. Oh yeah, captain, vice captain. Yeah, so and then Neil, like I already mentioned, is a bit hard to trust. And obviously we just saw the D's struggle against him a little bit. So and like Darcy, I wouldn't play into a McInerney. So gonna need to talk to the boys about what the actual play is here, but maybe it's taking a gamble on one of the Dogs, seeing if any of them have good history against Geelong. Dunkley doesn't. Bailey Smith won't. He's really only been a premium this year. What's McRae's history like? McRae's history is not good against Geelong either. So like none of the Dogs have good scoring history against them. Wow, I really, really wish I had Laird. That would be so handy this week. Maybe it's like Dawson into Took. What's Neil's history against Freo? Like, it's his old side. It's a revenge game. He hasn't played them the last 2 years though. All right. Neil captain, Miller vice captain. And so by the way, what's important with this is Most people have a fixed rule around points for captain. Like I want 120, or in recent years, probably moved it more to like 125, 130 from captain. But it does depend on the week that you're given, right? I don't love Neil as a captain option, and I don't think there are many other really obvious captain options apart from Laird. So if Miller goes like 115 probably this week, or 115 to 120, I probably would take that and play it safe over risking Neil. As much as Neil has that high ceiling, like I think this is the type of week where you do lower your threshold a little bit, rather than like last week I had Wits as my captain option backup, who was pretty confident was going to put up a good score. Like 119 ended up just being okay on the week, but like it's not a bad captain score by any means. So I was willing to take a risk on like high upside, high downside picks. Like maybe Neil doesn't get tagged, and that's the option I go for. Where I think like Oliver playing a good top side didn't have that same upside. So yeah, that's why I changed it. But I think this week it's a little bit different. Like I'm happy to play Miller into a North, and yeah, he probably doesn't have a 150 in him just from what we've seen the last few weeks. But I think this is a like decent. Like he could go 120 to 130, and I'd be happy to take that this week easily. All right, I've been rambling a bit, so I'm going to wrap it up there. Thank you so much for tuning in. Hope your week went better than mine. I mean, two 140s and a 164 captain. So if you smash that, then props to you, man. You've done amazingly. But yeah, let me know what you're thinking about. If you are making any trades this week, I really want to hear what they are. What trades people think they want to do this week. Otherwise, wishing you all the best, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Oh, one more thing. I'm heading down to Melbourne this week. My mom's having surgery, looking after her. Next week's video will be delayed. I'll probably post about it on Twitter or something like that as well. But yeah, like I'm not going missing next week. I may just be delayed on videos and all that type of stuff. But I will be around. But yeah, wishing you the best. I'll see you in the next one.